In this episode, wire, fill, fire. Let's go. In our last episode, we started installing the brains behind Project Firebolt, Holley's game-changing Terminator X Max powertrain management system. After making excellent progress on that and our other wiring jobs, we dialed up the hustle and installed a front-mount intercooler, fabbed up our charge piping, and then installed a methanol injection system. Now it's time to keep that momentum with laser focus on the goal of a successful, trouble-free start. Let's get to work. So you know I like to keep my workspace clean and organized. Well, when it comes to wiring, all bets are off. I get into a zone of some sort and stuff just starts flying.
Current status. Junk everywhere. Oh boy, where do I even start? Okay, where I'm at right now is I'm about to build a loom of all of the things that need to go that way. And you can see I have them stretched up over the top near the driver's mirror here. And that's a variety of trigger wires. Like this is for the electric fan trigger, there's a fuel pump trigger, there's a bunch of other stuff in here. Things, power that needs to go directly to the battery, ground that needs to go directly to the battery. So there's that sort of thing. Here's the power and the ground for the AEM alcohol injection. That needs to go this way. Let's see. And then I've got a few things that need to come down this way. So this is power and ground to the pump. And this is 2 wires for the level sensor in the tank to let you know if it runs empty. And then other than that, everything else is just plug and play with the Terminator X. So everything spilling over the edge you see here, that's everything that's going inside the cab. So we're going to try to consolidate all that and pass it through that little pass-through. We'll see how that goes. I got a lot of hours left here. I better get back to it. Feeding all these wires and plugs through this little Toyota rubber thing, I'm gonna be here a while. All right, I had to do a little surgery to this thing, sadly. There was just no way all this stuff was going through there. It's way bigger diameter than the stock loom that went through there. So this is what we got going into the cabin so far. Holy cow, look at all that. When it comes to wiring, I like to jump around a bit to keep it from becoming too much of a slog. So my next job was to make an adapter for the Holley 3-bar map sensor using the included adapter plug. Nice. What's up, everybody? Years ago when I built Thunderbolt, when it came to the wiring section of the videos, I really struggled with it. I just couldn't find a way to make it interesting or even capture it in a way that seemed like it would be useful, and it messed up my train of thought trying to record that video. Well, nothing's changed with me, at least. Here I am in that same boat. I'm trying to capture little snippets of this and try to show you stuff that's useful, but honestly, it's just breaking my concentration. I think what would be more useful is create some sort of document after the fact for folks that might want to do this. So that's something I could work on. For now, I'm just going to show you the highlights. I hope you enjoy it.
Modern engines need good ground wires, so let's whip up a couple. Next, I installed the Holley wideband oxygen sensor in the bung that we welded into our exhaust in the last video. Since this sensor is a long way from our ECU, I picked up this Holley 4-foot wideband extension cable. Okay, now our next job is to move to the wiring inside the cab here. Now this may look like a lot, but it's actually very little. All of the wires going this way are for the Terminator X. There's a couple outputs we have. Like there's a TAC output. Here's one that has to go to a switched power. So we just have a couple wires that are loose that we have to run. So everything else here is just plug and play into the Terminator X ECU for the engine and transmission control, and then for the screen output. The other wires we have, I have one coming through to control the AC compressor. Most of these are for the methanol injection system. So this should go pretty quick under here. Ah, pretty quick, eh? While the Terminator X wiring was simple, chasing down the various wires in our stock Toyota ECU harness to integrate things like AC, our gauges, reverse lights, and lots more was a bit of a challenge. I just took it one wire at a time and studied the service manual diagrams like my life depended on it. Let's take a break from this for a minute. Now I just love my little snap-on plug-in work light, but my only gripe with it is it just has one setting, on and off, blind you or darkness. I really wish they would have put a medium and a low or something, or just even a low and a high would have been great. One place I want to use this is inside the truck, but the light is just so harsh and intense that it's not even usable in there, but I think we can fix that. Okay, here's my solution. 2 layers of parchment paper, duct tape onto the side. Oh, that's so much better. I know the camera, it still looks super bright, but actually you can look into this thing and not be blinded with those little individual LED bulbs. Much better. I'll check to see if it gets warm. Not the most elegant solution, but it'll work for today. With a nice bright interior, we can get back to work on that wiring. Okay, I know this looks like sheer chaos right now, but I promise you it's very organized. So what I'm doing now is just routing all the wires up inside the dash, finding little homes for the relays and fuses that go along with the Terminator X harness. So what I've got here is a Toyota wiring output, and I'm just hooking some of those outputs to some of the wires, trigger wires and things. All right, excellent progress is being made. Okay, things are going really well in here right now. All the wiring where it comes through the firewall, that's exactly where the glove box is, and there's a lot of room up in here, especially since we've removed the factory ECU. So I've got the wires and things in here. This is sort of my mission control in here. Originally I'd wanted to put the Terminator X Max ECU in the glove box, but after mocking that up with the wires and everything, it just didn't look right. It seemed jammed in there like an afterthought, and I wanted to mount this in a nicer spot where I could keep an eye on these diagnostic LEDs. Here's a look at those. I like them because they're subtle, yet convey important info at a quick glance. So what I've come to is, so the glove box mounts here, it screws to this thing. I think I'm going to put the Terminator X ECU right down here, make a little bracket for it, and I think that'll be a cool mounting spot. No effect on leg room down here whatsoever. Allow us to get to the ECU if we need to, but mainly watch these diagnostic LEDs. So let's get to work on that. Now that we found a home for our Terminator X Max ECU, let's make some brackets to mount it up. That looks good. Let's give them a little bend. Perfect. After painting them black, here's how our Terminator X Max looks in its brand new home. Up next is this vacuum manifold that I picked up from Vibrant. This is great for turbo setups because it offers up to 6 outlet ports to support accessories like our alcohol injection controller, blow-off valve, wastegate, and more. This is a more reliable solution than using a bunch of plastic vacuum tees and easier than tapping a bunch of holes in your intake manifold. My first job was to find a good home for it and then whip up a simple mounting bracket. Next, I threaded in the hose barbs and the included plugs for ports that we're not using at the moment. There we go, we've got all the vacuum lines run and in place. Looks good to me. Our next job is to fill up all of the important fluids that will keep Firebolt alive and well. Here I've got all my work laid out. Let's start in the back with our Ford 88. This diff cover makes filling and draining so easy compared to the stock cover. There we go. Next up is the engine oil. I gotta tell you, putting oil in this thing feels like a really big step. Here we go. Hey, we can finally retire this no oil sticker. Since our oil pan uses a front sump, we need to make a dipstick. To do this job, I picked up this one from Canton. It's universal to many of their pans, so you've got to adjust it a bit depending on your setup. Let's do that. Okay, here we go, dipstick tuning. This is my first attempt. Now, I did test it once at full length, got just a dribble on the dipstick. Now I've cut about 3/4 of an inch off. Let's see how it goes. Oh, I hope I didn't cut too much off. Oh, nailed it! Well, I don't know if you can see that, but it's right on full. I think that might have been beginner's luck. Next up is our transmission. To fill it, I'm using the little spout that Locar included in their dipstick kit, joined up to a funnel. Alright, this is going to take a while. Come back later. Okay, it's time to fill up the coolant. To make sure we fill this engine up and all of our lines, we've got the lines going all the way back to the turbo, so we have a lot of coolant lines, a lot of opportunities for air to get trapped in there. So to help avoid that problem, we're using this airlift coolant fill system. I use the same exact tool on Thunderbolt, and LS Miatas are notorious for getting air trapped in the system. One thing I love about this, it's so simple. You pop it open, boom, there's the instructions right on the lid. Gotta love that, so you don't have to, this is something you could lose, it gets dirty, it gets messed up. This is on there. I haven't used this thing in years, popped it open, boom, pictures, really love that. All right, let's connect all this up. Alright, with that connected to the filler neck, we hook up our air hose and the airlift starts doing its thing of creating a vacuum on the cooling system. This removes any air in the system and allows you to check for leaks. If the needle doesn't move after 20 seconds, you know you don't have any leaks to worry about.
So while you're doing this vacuum process, your hoses will suck shut, which is pretty crazy looking. Look at my lower hose, completely collapsed. Isn't that wild?
Now we're ready to move on to the next step, connecting the fill hose and routing that into our jug of coolant. Then you open the valve and the filling begins. It's full when the gauge goes back to 0.
I'd forgotten how great this system is. Man, it works so good. So Firebolt drank almost my entire bin of Tidy Cat brand coolant here. Wow. Okay, we got ourselves here a shiny new battery. Now the problem I have with this battery are all these crazy stickers, all these crazy colors and stickers everywhere. You have this under your hood and it's a huge focal point. To me, it just cheapens the whole thing and gives it a real non-OEM look. So what I always do is I get a hairdryer and peel these stickers off. I peel the top one, peel this one off, and I keep them somewhere. I keep them on like a piece of wax paper or something. If I ever need to return this thing, slap them back on. But then you have just a black battery. No one ever pays any attention to it. Looks completely OEM. So let's do it. Oh, and Max Everstart would be a good race car driver name, don't you think? All right, there we go. One OEM looking battery. So now every time you open the hood, this thing's not screaming, "Hey everybody, look, I bought a Walmart battery."
That's a nice improvement. Let's bolt it in.
Okay, so what I want to do now is test and see if the truck will actually turn over. So what I'm testing out is if the starter relay is working and sending power to the starter, which will turn over the truck. Nothing is connected, no power to any fuel, anything, or ignition, so it's impossible for the truck to start. I just want to see if it'll turn over. So let's give it a shot. Okay, got power there. All right, the dash is all lit up. Headlights. So that all works. Oh, okay. All right, now I'm turning the key, nothing. So, looks like I'll be spending a little more time with the Toyota wiring manual. I'll be back in a little while to try it again. So many of you have been asking me about the original engine and transmission, asking me if I sold it, if it's for sale. And I do still have it, as you can see here. And the reason I kept it was this. So I wasn't getting power to the starter relay. Started digging deeper into all the wiring diagrams. So I found out that the electrical system needs to know that this senses park. Now this was mounted on the side of the automatic transmission right here. So if I didn't have this on hand, I would have been having to ground these sensors out and really probably spend a lot more time trying to figure out what was going on here. So that is why I'm keeping this old beast on hand, just making sure I don't need any other sensors or anything, and then I will eventually, someday, post it all for sale. Okay, engine turnover attempt number 2. Let's try it out. Oh! Yeah! Okay, let's try it again. Oh, yes! Nice. That's very motivating.
Now that we've got the 5.3 cranking, let's check to see if we're building oil pressure. With that all going well, I brought down the Tacoma's hood and interior bits that had been stored in my attic for the last few months and bolted it all back in place. After that, I finished up the gauge cluster wiring and buttoned that up too. For my RPM signal, I used Holley's built-in output combined with this Dakota digital converter. For the speedometer, I used one of my Terminator X outputs, which you can control as needed in the Holley EFI software. Now we need a shifter. I spent a hot minute attempting to adapt the stock Toyota shifter, but quickly realized that it just wouldn't do what I needed to do and would be more of a liability than anything. I want to bang the gears in this 4L80E with total confidence, so in goes a proper ratcheting shifter made for this transmission. I started by installing the shift cable assembly and routing the cable up and into the cab. Next, I needed to remove all of the Toyota shifter brackets from the stock base plate. A little time, a spot weld cutter, and a flap disc make quick work of this. So with all these Toyota brackets removed off of here, the idea is that we'll place this guy somewhere along this flat part here. So we'll take this whole thing in the cab and see if we can find a good position for this thing to sit. After a couple rounds of test fitting, what this shifter needs is a date with the cutoff wheel. All right, trust me, this won't hurt a bit. Well, there goes the warranty again. Okay, I think I've got a good spot here. We made a few modifications to the bracket here, some non-invasive trimming here in the back. Let's go all the way down to first gear. All right, that's all the way down in first. Yeah, I like that. I'll have to do a little bit of trimming to this console here, just probably this part down here. And then we'll figure out some sort of leather thing or some boot to go over this. All right, now anytime you install a shifter, it's important to do the proper testing methods. All right, here we go. It's not bolted down yet, so I gotta hold it. Like it? Oh yeah, I like that. Our final job before attempting to start this beast is to gas it up with 5 gallons of fresh 93 octane. After this, I primed the fuel system a couple times to make sure that we didn't have any leaks. All right, everybody, it's time. Months and months of hard work have all led up to this. Let's see if she'll start. Let's go. One more quick thing before we try to fire. Holley's Terminator X has a built-in quick start wizard that asks you a few questions about your setup to get you up and running quickly and safely. That would work well for us, but I've got this guy who gave me one of his top secret Turbo 5.3 4L80E tunes to use as a great starting point. So I downloaded that from the secret website that he sent me and installed it on the Terminator X's SD card earlier. Now let's turn that key. Everybody, there we go. I'm just reading everything off the Terminator X. It's got all my vitals. This is so cool. I've got all the information right here. This handheld is so amazing. Look at all this information. Just sitting here monitoring everything. There's all these different screens you can go to and check out. I've only been using Terminator X here for a couple minutes and already I love it. I love the interface. It's so intuitive and easy to use. You click tuning, there you go, basic. Look at that. Fuel, closed loop, spark, transmission, basic idle. So I click basic idle, has my engine idle speed, click that. Look at that, a slider or these left and right arrows I can use to tailor my RPM. How easy is that? So much control in such a simple interface. I really love this. All right, I'm gonna go look and see what's going on under here. Okay, everything's looking pretty good under here, working as it should.
kicked on. I set it at 180 degrees and it just kicked on right at 180. So that's functioning well. You know, a little smoke here and there from things burning off, exhaust and stuff, but no surprises, thankfully. It runs! It runs! Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't believe it. It's been a long journey. There's still a lot to do, but this is really great. Glad you all could come along with me. All right, let's listen to the Summit Pro LS Turbo Cam sing a little bit. Oh my gosh, I love it.
So after a couple rounds of firing this beast up and letting it get up to temp in my driveway, it was time to take it for a quick test drive around town. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Project Firebolt hits the streets. Oh, waited a long time for this. You know, I've been driving the truck around my neighborhood and letting it warm up in my driveway, and everything's been looking good from that regard, but you can never really tell how a project like this is going to perform until you get it out on the road and up to speed. So here we go. All right, let's pull out here. What you notice right off the bat is this transmission is a beast. That 1-2 shift hits so hard. All right, well, so far so good. It is super hot today. It's in the low 90s right now with the feels like up near 100. So this is a good test to see how everything's gonna work. Cooling system, transmission, all that stuff. So we're in 4th gear and the converter just locked up. So that works good. So the truck is driving great, nice and straight. Steering feels good. Okay, we're testing out Firebolt's handling going around these turns. Actually better than I thought. All right, big hill, here we go. Can you hear that turbo back there? It's just been singing the whole time I've been going up these hills. Oh, that sounds so good back there. Oh, man, that first to second gear is crazy. I didn't know if you heard that, but it just chirped big time, even at light throttle. Oh my gosh. All right, now I'm just cruising along here. I'm just gonna lay into the gas just a little bit on this flat stretch. Oh my gosh. Oh, this thing's gonna be crazy. Everything's looking pretty good on the Terminator X. The transmission temp is a little higher than I'd like. So I'm thinking that small transmission cooler we have, even with the fan on it, by itself isn't gonna be enough. I think if it was an auxiliary fan, you know, in combination with like one that went through the radiator, it'd be fine. But by itself, I don't think it's gonna cut it. So we might have to either put that thing up front where it'll get more air, or go with something bigger under the bed. This thing is gonna fly once it's all dialed in. Well, I'm happy that our coolant temp is looking really good. It's just been sitting between 188 and 190 the entire time. And that's up and down through these mountains in this super hot day. So I'm really happy with that. Now, I haven't installed the rest of the air conditioning system yet. I have the compressor in and the wiring, but the condenser and the lines are not in there yet. I've got parts on order for that, so once I get all that stuff in, we'll have air conditioning, which I desperately need in this heat. All right, one thing we need for sure is gas. I just put that 5 gallons of gas in it to fire it up, and we're already going through that pretty fast, so we better stop at a gas station here in a minute and gas this thing up. Okay, we got her gassed up. Let's try a little hot start. See how it does. caster up. We got a nice full tank of 93 in there. I think I'd like to head back to the garage, get it up on the lift, look it all over, make sure we don't have any leaks or any other problems, make sure all the bolts are tight, that sort of thing. All right, everybody, we made it back to the turbo garage from our first drive in Project Firebolt. The truck did great. No leaks, no smoke, no weird smells, no vibrations. I mean, what more could you ask for? The only little issue we ran into was that transmission temp creeping up there, and I think we'll be able to solve that no problem. Other than that, lots of little tuning and tweaking that we need to do. Still plenty of work to be done, but very promising first drive and no major issues. So I'm gonna call that a win. Thanks for coming along with me. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Summit Racing for making this video series possible. They are the LS swap experts and offer everything you need to build the car or truck of your dreams. Be sure to visit summitracing.com, grab a catalog, or download their handy app for all of your horsepower needs. Also, don't forget to come hang out with me in any of these spots. I'd love to hear from you. So with that said, thanks again, folks. We'll see you next time.